What up, YouTube? Bringing you guys a tier list of what I think some of the best stocks to own in 2026. We got earnings week this week and the following. So a lot of these are going to be in the news. This is going to be a kind of a crazy couple of weeks for us that are invested in tech and just in the market in general. So I thought I would make a tier list on what I think the best stocks are to own just this year and the future. I've traded all of these in the past and I have my opinions on them. So I thought I would make this video here just so you guys can have some entertainment. And this is, of course, not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. Take what I say with a big grain of salt. But either way, I've traded these for the last couple of years, and I wanted to give you guys what I think. So to get us started, you guys have heard of this one a lot. Nvidia, you know where they're going to go. These guys are gnarly. They've been growing revenues like 60, 70% year over year, which is crazy for a $5 trillion company or close to 5 trillion. They have more than 90% of the AI GPU market share. So it's just kind of insane. You know, Jensen Huang's a killer. He oversees more than $1 trillion in AI infrastructure spend going all the way through 2027. These guys are going to go in S tier, generational wealth opportunity. These guys are gnarly. Are they going to grow until 10, 15 trillion dollars in the next 5 years? It's hard to say. Probably not, because you just start getting into some crazy numbers. But there's some upside with Nvidia, of course. These guys dominate their market, and I think they're a gnarly, great buy. I was long Nvidia from last May. I actually ended up selling a little too soon. I had leaps in shares, but made a little bit of money, and nobody's ever gone broke from making money. So, in my opinion, Nvidia is an S tier. So let's talk about Micron. These guys are in the chip storage and memory trade. They're one of the three companies on earth that make this HBM memory clip that I was actually researching. And I'll be frank, I've only traded Micron for a couple of weeks. If you've heard of SanDisk or Micron, these companies have been popping. I think SanDisk was up 8% today. Today's April 27th. So, I mean, they just kind of moving like reckless. You know, they're insane. I do believe their product is very unique, but it can be one of those things that is just kind of cyclical, where the AI demand is so large right now, and when that demand kind of calms down a little bit, they could suffer. I'm not super into their business, I'll be frank, but I think it's a great trade to be in, and I'll rank them as A. So let's talk about MicroStrategy, or just strategy. Michael Saylor. This guy is a crazy dude. I'll be honest. I like his passion. I love the way he talks about Bitcoin and leveraging his whole company to buy Bitcoin. And he has these funds where they pay like 10, 15% in dividends because they borrow so much Bitcoin and they can pay these high dividends because they make a good bit of money. But Bitcoin has been trading down for the last like 6 to 12 months. So dude's having like a couple bad months as of late. He's betting on 30% appreciation on Bitcoin for the next 10 years, which is an enormous assumption. I'm long Bitcoin, just like the next guy, but not like that. You know, I think there must be a cap to your exposure to crypto, and my cap is like 10 to 15%, maybe even 20%, depending on the market and where it sits. But for me, this is a C. I think Michael Saylor's kind of like he's kind of a lunatic. I'll be honest. I don't really trust my money with strategy. I'm sure they'll do well. I'm sure whenever Bitcoin starts recovering, these guys are going to go crazy. But for me, I'll rank it as C, just because they have so much leverage on this Bitcoin and their price targets are crazy. Let's talk about one of my favorites, Meta. Zuck is back. So I've been trading Meta for a while, and unfortunately, I did not hold my shares. But back in 2022, whenever they changed their name from Facebook to Meta, the stock dropped like 60%. And I honestly thought it was the end of the company. But look at it now. These guys are trading at like $700. They're gnarly. These guys have more than 3.5 billion active users. They have some of the largest targeting for ads. Their platforms are insane. Their AI powered ad stuff is going to go crazy. They just launched their own Llama, or maybe they changed the name of the model that they have, and It's great. They're capturing a bunch of data. I'm long Meta with leaps, and it's one of my largest positions. I'll rank it as A. I wouldn't say they're S with Nvidia. I think their moat is very established, and maybe on a different day where I'm not being so biased with my longs, I'll rank them as S. But for now, I think I'll rank them as A. We'll see where it plays out. I think they're trading at a low PE ratio for a company of that size, and the market's catching up to it. So if you're not long Meta, you still have a chance to buy, but it's one of my favorites. This is, of course, not financial advice. This is what I think. Let's talk about Lisa Su's company, AMD. So she constantly sandbags guidance. She's going to talk about only growing their revenue like 15%, but they always grow more than 20 year over year. These guys are insane. If you have noticed, AMD has ran like more than 40% in the last 2 weeks. This is April 27th. So if you go look at those charts, they're going crazy. And I had a leap on AMD and I made more than 80% in my return. Very happy with that trade. I exited the trade because I think they're going to trade down on earnings, even though they're going to come out with strong guidance. They're a great company. Lisa Su's a great leader. What they do with their AI chips and demand is just so crazy. They're a cheaper alternative to Nvidia when it comes to their market size, and you have an exposure to the AI and chip trade, and they have room to run. They're not even the $1 trillion mark, which is insane for me to say. They're only trade at like 200, 300 billion in market cap, if I'm not mistaken, maybe a little bit more because they've run a lot. So they have room to grow. These guys are insane. I can see AMD being a $500 share in the next 5 years. I'm definitely ranking them as A. I think it's one of the best trades that you can take. Of course, not financial advice, but I really like the company, and I think they can be a very big winner in the AI race. And I don't necessarily think there's going to be only one winner, right? Only Nvidia is going to do well during this next 10, 15 years. Only AMD or only Micron. I think there's going to be several market leaders in what they do. And AMD and Nvidia and Micron can be one of those. So that's why I'll rank them as A, because they have a rock solid company. They make a ton of cash, but they're not as consolidated as Nvidia, so they go in A. Let's talk about Snapchat. This is my first ever trade I took, but they're going to go in D tier. Sorry, I'm just skipping to the bullshit. They're still not profitable after like nearly a decade of being in the public markets. They never really found a way to monetize the platform. They have like Snapchat Premium and they have their streaks. All that kind of stuff is just kind of gimmicky. Like I used to use Snapchat when I was younger. I was like 16, 17, but I'm 25 now. Like I don't use Snapchat. It's just a platform that kind of stayed behind. And I think it shows. Like the market does not like Snapchat. And honestly, as a trade, I do not like Snapchat either. It was really exciting to see them IPO back in 2017. It was one of the largest IPOs at the time for, I think the dudes were like in their 20s. So it was awesome to see, but they just have not done well. They don't make money. So it's tough for me to justify this. That's why I'll rank them as D. Let's talk about Microsoft. This is an interesting one. So they're deep into OpenAI. If you're not aware, they own a very large part of OpenAI. And OpenAI also uses a lot of Microsoft's compute and storage. So it's kind of like I give you money, you give me money back. So there's been a lot of negative sentiment with Microsoft in the last 6 months, and they've traded down. I do think they're still one of the strongest companies in the Mag 7 and just in the market in general. They're trading at a historically attractive level right now, in my opinion. Their Azure cloud revenue is completely tied into their AI adoption, like I mentioned with ChatGPT. So their big bet is on ChatGPT. However, I still think they have a large moat when it comes to their Microsoft products, whether that be Microsoft Azure is one of the largest data centers, cloud storage data centers there is out there, joined by GCP and AWS. And with all that said, they're still trading at a relatively low price for the size of the company and how much money they make. That's why I'm ranking them as S. I think Microsoft is going to have a brutal couple of months coming ahead. I think Microsoft is going to have a phenomenal next couple of years. This, of course, not financial advice, but I just like the company. I like their guidance. Satya Nadella is one of the gnarliest dudes out there in terms of running tech companies. And Microsoft, I think, can be one of the winners of the AI race. And I'll be transparent. I'm long Microsoft I think I'm long like 10, 15K. So not necessarily like a gnarly position, but it does benefit me to having them do well. So I'm a big fan, and I think they're going to do well in the future. Let's talk about Netflix. This one has been pretty controversial. The Warner Brothers Discovery acquisition was a big mess, and they ended up actually catching a bag, which is good for them. They caught like a $3.5 billion bag from Paramount. So that was pretty crazy. But they raised their prices. So they get a bag of like $3.5 billion from Warner Brothers, right? And Paramount and the whole deal. And then they go and raise prices. So shareholders are not necessarily super happy with Netflix. I do think they're still one of the largest players in the streaming industry. And now they have their gaming stuff. For me, I would trade them as A because they still have a lot of growth and a lot of upside, but it can be a little bit uncertain. They're growing a lot. I do like their company, but they're not consolidated like these other companies on S or A tier are, in my opinion. So it goes in B. And at the end of the day, it's kind of like discretionary spend. If the economy does really, really bad, like people are going to cancel their Netflix accounts. Like I hate to say it, it's only 15, $20 or whatever it is, but those are the first things to go. So in my opinion, I'll rank them as B. And I do think there's a lot of upside. I'm I'm long like 86 shares, 90 shares of Netflix. If you want to check out my portfolios in another video, but that's where I rank them. Tesla, this one is crazy. So this one is just a cold stock. I'll rank them as B because I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of the company. I do like what Elon's doing. I think they're pivoting to robots with their Optimus lineup, and it could be like a decade defining move if they deliver, but it's tough. They trade at like a 200 plus PE ratio, which is so speculative. And the bull case for Tesla has been around for the last like 5 years. I remember in 2019, 2020, like they didn't even make money and they were trading at like 100 PE, and it just never made sense to me. So I haven't traded Tesla in a minute. I do think they're a great company, and I'm a big fan of Elon, but it is kind of speculative. That's why I'll rank them as B. Google. This one's one of my favorites. What do you guys think is going to go? I think these guys own the search, the cloud. YouTube is one of their properties. Waymo is one of their properties. Their Gemini AI model is phenomenal. They just invested $40 billion into Anthropic. These guys are in the front of a lot of these new tech frontiers. They're also heavily invested into quantum computing, which can be a big thing in the next couple of years. Of course, we don't know much about it because it's not here yet, but they're going to go in S tier. I'm long 160 something shares of Google, and it's one of my favorites. It's my largest single stock position. So big fan. I think if you buy Google today, you're going to do super well and you're going to be happy. But it's, of course, not financial advice. And this is just what I think. Robinhood. This one for me, B tier. They're not as consolidated as these other players. They play in a very tough industry, which is this financial, fintech brokerage space. And now they have the Robinhood card, which I'm a big fan of. I do like the company. They do trade more of like a crypto company, which I don't know if I agree with their valuations there, because they have retirement accounts, they have credit cards now. They're becoming like a full one-stop shop for financial needs. And I'm a big fan. I've been using the platform for years, but they're not as consolidated as other companies. I do think there's a lot of upside. And I don't know, they've been trading down. They're trading like in the 80s right now. We could see them back in the 90s and maybe touching the hundreds, but I wouldn't count on it. So I rank them as B. I'm a big fan, but there's a lot of stuff at play that has to play out for them to be, a major company in the future. Mastercard, these guys are gnarly. They've been around for a minute. If you're not aware of Visa and Mastercard and American Express, Visa and Mastercard especially, there's kind of like a duopoly they have there where most of market share when it comes to processing payments goes through them. And they make a small percentage whenever you go and swipe your card at a grocery store or at a restaurant, and they keep like 3-4%. American Express is actually a little bit more. That's why you sometimes go to a place they don't carry Amex, because it's expensive to run Amex. But MasterCard is a phenomenal company. I think they're now monetizing on the consumer spending data platform where they're selling data to these other companies, because imagine all this telemetry they have of users, right? Like where's people spending money at what times of the day? Like what are they buying at this time of the year? Like where are they shopping? Like they have all of this data, and that's their next big play. But I'll rank them as B because there could be a future where we're just transacting through Ethereum or Solana or Bitcoin. I'm not even like one of those crypto bros that is just super bullish on this thing. Like I'm not, I promise. But it's just kind of crazy to think that their business could be completely disrupted in the next 10 years through the blockchain technology, which kind of eliminates the need for Mastercard, Visa, American Express, and you can transact at like super low to no fees. So I'll rank them as B just because their whole business could be disrupted and completely annihilated in the next couple of years. I'm sure they will adapt, but this is what I got for now. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Let's see what this week and the following week has for us. If you're still here, I want to see you guys win, and I'll see you guys soon.